Well, you're welcome back. And to discuss review of off-cycle elections, let me introduce our guest here in the studio. We have Faith Nwadishi, an election situation room observer. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much.
A regular
good morning.
Here. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
It must be exhausting coming back to Abuja.
Yes, exactly. But thank God we're here. That's the most important.
Thank God we're here. Thank God for life. Yes.
We also have joining us Hamzat Lawal, the CEO of Connected Development. Many thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And joining us via Zoom is Tari Maureen Amananaga, an election observer. A pleasure to have you, Maureen.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Joins us from Bielsa. Yes. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's like an all-women affair today, just alone. Let's have your candid opinion and assessment of the off-cycle election in Kogi, Imo, and Bielsa. Well, from that, we now go delve deep into the conversation. Let's have your assessment of it.
Well, first I would say I'm blessed among women, so
yes,
I don't feel threatened. Yes, Connected Development deployed Usabe, and for us we deployed a week before the elections. And for us we look at the processes. We're not keen about the results and whoever is declared the winner. For us we want to look at the process. And this was informed by two policy or regulatory framework. One is the 2022 Electoral Act. The second is INEC's guideline. So we're looking at, ballot box issue, electoral materials. We're looking at personnel. We're looking at security. We're looking at incidents in real time that could undermine the electoral process. And we're working jointly with security agencies so we can escalate, and also INEC so that they can respond. 48 hours before the elections, I traveled from Abuja to Kogi State. In Kogi, we set up a situation room, getting real-time situation report from Bielsa, Imo, and then also in Kogi. I was received by the resident electoral commissioner. Together with him, the DCP of police, DSS, we went to the Central Bank of Nigeria in Lokoja to inspect the sensitive material. And in our presence, it was sorted and sent to the 21 local governments. That's 24 hours before elections. Around 11 p.m. that same day, I dispatched man to the RAC center. I also went to a few RAC centers. So at the RAC center, I confirmed that both sensitive and non-sensitive materials arrived there, and there were heavy armed security personnel to guarantee the protection of lives and property and, of course, INEC material. By 7 a.m., I went to about 4 local governments in Kogi Central, and at 7:15, I was stationed in the polling unit to verify if INEC ad hoc staff and material would get to this polling unit on time. And I can confirm to you by 7:40 they were all on ground. By 7:45 they've set up, and by 8 a.m. polling started. And to also confirm that there was massive turnout in Kogi State, particularly we saw a lot of women, people with disability, and young people. And I can also confirm that there was priority voting for older people, pregnant women, and people with disability. That's in Kogi. For Bielsa and Imo, the turnout was terrible. It was really bad compared to Kogi. But then again, there's this argument. When you look at the voter register, does it depict the reality of today? Because we've only been registering people to cast their ballot, but we've never audited. We've never cleaned up the register. And this is one of the gaps and lessons that were taken out of this election. Yes, there were a few pockets of incidents in Imo and in Bielsa in terms of security. But in Kogi State, there was no major security threat or issue on ground. And I think this is where we need to commend the IG of Police and the National Security Advisor, that they put to action the words and commitments they made when they met with the chairman of INEC.
All right, many thanks, Hamza. So I'll go straight to Faith Nwadishi now. You're smiling. I'm sure that you want to tell us what your experience was like. You were in Imo. You observed, everything that took place there. So just give us an assessment.
Okay, thank you so much. Prior to the election, we visited the 3 states, Bielsa, Kogi, and Imo, to engage stakeholders, security, INEC, and all of that. And there were concerns that came out from those stakeholders' meetings. And going to the election, we decided to look at those issues that came. a day before the election in Imo, we met with the DIG of police that was in charge of policing the election in Imo State, Frank Mba. He had a meeting with civil society, and we tried to address some of these issues. What the major issue was for us, because it came out from the 3 states, security agents themselves were concerned that the Electoral Act made that provision that if an electoral offense is happening within a polling unit where they find themselves, they cannot take action except the presiding officer points it out to them. But again, the Constitution and the Police Act gave them that power, to protect citizens and arrest any crime that is going on. So we went out to look at that. We also went out to look at the ad hoc staff. So in Imo State, as early as possible, we deployed about 100 observers in Imo. We deployed the total 212 observers, 50 in Bayelsa and Kogi, because again the voting population in Imo is much more. The local government in Imo is 27, much more than 8 and 21 that you have in. So we set up our own situation room in Imo State and got reports from other places. So for logistics, I would say there's been a lot of improvement in the logistics. INEC officials came to the polling units on time. They set up on time. But the challenge we saw was, again, that the political class still has not learned, even from the judgment. I felt that with all the judgment that came with the general elections, the political class would have gone back to the drawing table, to do things differently. But they didn't do things differently. So you go to the field. And, INEC did something quite innovative, gave a list of party agents that were deployed by each political unit, and even produced a booklet on that, so that you will know which party deployed party agents. So you go to the field. I went to, I visited 2 local government areas, Owerri Municipal and Owerri North. You go to the field, you see people wearing different party tags. Now, political parties still have not been able to produce the passport photographs of their party agents, so that you can match faces to people who are wearing tags. So people who are wearing tags, there were none there. The one that really pained me was a pregnant woman I saw in a polling unit. She was wearing a party tag, and she didn't even know the name of the party tag she was wearing. But they were all working for the same political party. So you see somebody is wearing a different political party, he's taking instruction from one other political party, and he's even the one in charge of writing the names of people. So we went there and found that there was voter party. If you look at Imo, Kogi and Bayelsa, it was worse in Imo, voter party. So you go there and you saw that happening. So you saw also party agents who didn't know the right questions to ask, during election. For instance, the report that came from Kogi about field result sheet was because party agents were proactive and they were vigilant. In Imo, you saw party agents who didn't even know what questions to ask. So the ad hoc staff is doing their work. They are not asking how many ballot papers do you have, can we see the result sheet, can we see that. As soon as you just show them beavers and the zero, they are good, because a lot of them are in the same place. So you find that driving around, a lot of young people were rather playing football than coming out. So I stopped somewhere to ask them why they were not participating, and they said they were not going to participate. But we saw older people. In fact, I met a woman, 80, she said she'll be 81 next year, and she has voted all her life. She keeps voting. She told me she used to vote in Lagos. She came back to Imo. She has come to vote, and you will see that there's nothing you're going to give her. Because when we interviewed her, she was really shouting so that the party agents will hear that she has not taken much. It was the right thing to be done, but the youths are not doing that. Then on the other part, you see that citizens are yet to know that they have to transfer their PVCs to the newly created polling units. So you go to a polling unit, they had 4 registered voters, but we saw 7 party agents in the polling unit where you had only 4. And interestingly, there was one we went, we saw one voter, registered voter, and we saw 5 party agents. Incidentally, the registered voter in that polling unit is also a party agent. So he voted, and I asked him, how do you feel being the only person here? He said, I'm a party agent, I've delivered my polling unit because I have voted.
Just one.
Just one, yeah, just one. So we need to intensify, education for citizens to know that it is their responsibility to transfer their PVC. So we had all of that apathy, and then the police it is good to police the election, but it is bad to militarize it, to make it look as if it is war. On one hand, you're trying to say you want to assure citizens there will be security. On the other hand, you're also scaring lots more people. They're not coming because you're driving around, or you're coming out from your house with your PVC, you see kitted, and what I'm telling you, war ready. Kitted with marks and everything, and you see the guns. The particular polling unit we went to, because there were issues they had there during the general election, you had security men, I mean army in front of the polling unit, though you have police inside. One of our observers was, his phone was taken away from him, and then all the pictures, even his personal pictures, deleted. His phone was virtually wiped out. So he went to meet the police, and the first question the police said, hey, why you can't they take our picture now? You know, so it's a lot of that. But I just want to say that when it comes to the issue of logistics, because we are very particular about logistics, there's been a lot of improvement. There's no improvement at all with the attitude of the political class in helping to ensure that the police, you know, I saw more police than other security agents, even though they said they were going to bring, but we saw more police on in Imo State and other places. There was some level of professionalism and improvement from what has happened in the past. But we need to continuously address this issue of police not doing anything when a crime is being committed on the field, waiting for the presiding agent who is busy attending to the electoral process. At what point will the presiding agent now leave the electoral process and say, police, please come, oh, this man has committed a crime? So we need to really, because it's a big issue.
Okay, Faith Nwadishi, you've raised a lot of pertinent questions, and you know, on logistics you are giving a pass mark. Well, let's now join Tare Maureen in Bielsa. You're in Bielsa, Tare, and the result there is still pending. Let's have your own assessment of the election and the experience you went through.
Good morning, especially to my boss, Hamzi. Good morning, sir. Yeah, in Bielsa, you know, people will always say it's just hit local government, but you know, 70% of the terrain is covered with water. And for the issue about results being pending, in some places in Southern Ijaw local government, they got material as late as 9 p.m. on the 11th of November. And you know, they also had an incident in that area where a boat that was taking materials and personnel to Kolama had an accident, and they lost that material. Although they also got a reprinted material for that particular place that same Saturday, but voting commenced late at that time. So and in the issues of Southern Ijaw and Brass, for Southern Ijaw is one of the biggest local governments in Nigeria. So it was difficult. It's difficult. The place had to reach terrain in Bielsa, Southern Ijaw, and in Brass, I think they had a little bit of inch at the collation center, where some materials that were supposed to be collated at the local government area didn't get to the local government area as of Saturday. They were taken straight to Yenagoa, the INEC office in Yenagoa. And for Bielsa, yes, we experienced a lot of voter apathy. And I would say the reason for the voter apathy is because of a lot of people have seen the events unfolding to the election as people felt it was going to be violent, and people would prefer to stay at their home rather than come out and face the election, because there were a lot of hate speeches during campaigns, and when campaigns are mad with hate speeches, people just on their own just have a perception that it's going to be this way, it's going to be that way. So for Yenagoa that I was observing, I observed the fact that there were a lot of security, and I was asking, are we deploying for war, or we're actually deploying for election? Fine, we know that security is one of the critical part of the election, but when security is being deployed as though we were preparing for not just we're no longer preparing for a civic event, as though we're preparing for actual war. So it's somehow might scare people from coming to participate in the elections. But overall, in the past elections in Bayelsa State, I would want to say that this election, in terms of logistic, it was good on the side of INEC. And another thing that we also need to consider, because the political parties are now the issues we're having in elections. Political parties are forgetting that they also have a role in playing in terms of having a beautiful process on election day. Election is a multi-stakeholder event. It is not just an event for only the umpire to take care of. The political party has their role to play. Because even at the collation center, you could see party agents saying that, oh, people did not come out to vote, INEC did not do sensitization properly. And I was like, civil societies went out to do sensitization. INEC also went out to do sensitization. What about the political parties? You went out on campaigns. In your campaigns messages, you're supposed to be asking people to come out and vote. Your campaign is not just only for the members of your political party alone. You are talking to the people in general. There are people that are in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi that are not members of political parties, and they are citizens, and they have voters card, and they have a right to come out and vote for their leader. But I think the other stakeholders involved in the election are not doing their role in terms of the election. You don't leave everything in the hands of INEC. There are lots of ballot papers that were not used, and that is money that was spent in preparing for those materials for people to come out and cast their vote. So, but overall, the expectations of us from the civil society space was that maybe the election we're going to be marred with a lot of violence. And in terms of collation, I think INEC arranged not to collate results in Southern Niger, because in the past, when collations are ongoing in Southern Niger headquarters, that's where you see election violence and all that. So same thing that usually happens in Southern Niger, almost, in fact, happened in Brass local government area, because we recorded a casualty. Someone was, the two party had an issue, and someone was stabbed in the back, and there's a fatality in that recorded in Brass local government, 12 Brass, precisely yesterday, the 12th of November. But overall, what we really experienced in Yenagoa was voter apathy. But in the rural area, because most of the voters are residents there, people can still go out in the morning to mobilize them and come out. So people voted in the rural communities more than they voted in Yenagoa local government, the state capital.
Many thanks, Maureen, for your view as regards the conduct of the election in Bayelsa. Faith, I'd like to come back to you. The three of you have talked about logistics being, okay in this particular election. That has actually been an issue in previous elections, but good that there's some form of improvement. But now looking at voter apathy, that's been an issue in the three states monitored, and then having representatives here. You have mentioned voter apathy. I'd like you to please, from your assessment of what happened in Imo, and then having feelers from the other three states, what could be responsible for that? That's the first leg of the question. Then we talked about the fact that some people who even came out to vote were not aware that they've been moved to another polling unit. Whose duty is it? Maureen tried to mention that, sensitization and education shouldn't be left to INEC alone. But where does it stop? Whose duty is it to ensure that voters are educated, as to where they should be voting? And then if they moved certain people, how come they could still vote in their previous polling units? Second question. Then I want to find out from you, I already mentioned voter apathy, and then the fact that there's not enough education. There's also the part of where you mentioned that security operatives who were on ground didn't know what to do when someone had committed an offense, or rather they just waited and probably waiting for the those in charge to let them know that, oh, somebody is doing something wrong here. Do you think that our security operatives are even properly educated about the electoral process, so they can know when someone is doing something wrong, so they can actually, do the needful?
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just put it on the table that one major reason, I think that the foundational problem why we have increased voter apathy is the fact that people get elected and they never ever keep to their promises. They never deliver on their commitment to the people. So people are like, oh, okay, so this person is there, it's turn by turn, they just go there, they don't do anything. You see somebody is in office for 4 years before he or she leaves the first 4 years, and then you come again in the next 8 years. I remember observing an election in one of the states in the south. The governor performed very woefully, and when the father was coming to campaign for him, so you know, when you go to school and you fail, just go allow the person to repeat. So that's the mentality. They take the people for granted. They don't deliver. And then the other thing is about voter education. Whose responsibility is it? It is the responsibility of the person who benefits from the electoral process. The 110% responsibility lies on the political class. But the politicians don't even have voter education in their program. They rather will put together money basket to buy votes.
Isn't that on purpose? Because when they're not properly educated about, I mean, the whole process, it means that you can actually coerce them.
Exactly.
Whichever way.
Exactly. So what happens is, one, citizens don't know, for instance, the hierarchy of elections. A lot of Nigerians, if you ask them which is the most important election today, they'll tell you it's presidential election. But I tell you, the local government election, that never happens in any state, irrespective of the party that is there, is supposed to be the most important election, because that is where you have the closest government structure to the people, followed by the governorship election. So I expect that if you have 30% turnout for presidential election, there should be 60% turnout for governorship election and 80% turnout for local government election. But let's not talk about the local government, because elections don't happen at local government in any of the 36 states. The only place that local government election happens is the FCT, because it's INEC that is conducting that. So it doesn't matter which political party is in power. In fact, in some local government, they don't even have election, they have transition committees. So let's not go there and talk about that. So citizens don't understand that this is where their power lies. This is where you can actually see the person and hold the person accountable. That's on the issue of voter apathy. And then the insecurity. Insecurity is just the elevation of insecurity in the country. You got before the election, especially in Imo, you had all of these, that about 2 or 3 local government areas where activities are not happening. When we went to Owerri for the stakeholders meeting, there was a traditional ruler who even came out to say, "Oh, there's no insecurity in the state, everywhere is fine." But the director of DSS at that meeting said, "Nobody should tell you there's no insecurity, but we are having strategies to work on that." So you can imagine a traditional ruler coming to tell people, "Oh, you're supposed to have first-hand information about what is happening. You're supposed to tell the people the way it is, what it is, how it is, so that you have also traditional ways of protecting the people." Yesterday, I was traveling from Owerri to Port Harcourt. There was a by road we passed. On that road alone, you have over 33 police checkpoints. So police, the drivers now devise a means of cutting off some of those police checkpoints to go through the road where you have vigilantes. Citizens now are more comfortable with vigilantes being on the road than even having police on the road. You understand that? So when you unnecessarily heat up the polity, get insecurity everywhere, people can't even say what they want to say. People are looking at your body language. People are looking at you. They cannot come out. For instance, you come out to the field to vote. You are thinking that these people are party agents or these people are voters. Just take time, settle down, sit down in a polling unit. You're looking at their body language. You're looking at their eye contact. If you move anyhow, by the time they see observers, you will see a bus of people coming there. What is happening here? What is happening here? You're looking at them. Those so-called party agents of different political parties will congregate towards that. Say, no, there's nothing happening. Observers are here. You understand? So even as observers, we are except the last 4 years I was in Kogi, I was almost burnt in Ganaja. And I have a phobia to go to Kogi now. And that was why I didn't even go to Kogi for this election. I was, my team and myself in our vehicle were almost burnt at Ganaja for being election observers. You can understand. So when you look at when you look at the level of insecurity and the reports that come, and you know the funniest thing, sometimes you don't have violence on election day. It is when it now gets into collation. Yeah. So perhaps we should begin to look at what other strategies do we need. We went to Anambra the other time. The people, my family called, don't go. And we had the most peaceful election, even at the height of that. Whatever violence happened after the election.
Yeah.
So these are the things we are talking about. The issue of voter apathy. We have the National Rotation Agency that is statutorily mandated to do this. But how are they funded? How are they funded? You go to the state, you want to talk to National Rotation Agency. The state director is telling you that my budget is like 100,000 naira for 3 months. How do you now expect it? And they have, the NOA has a structure than the staff, because they have staff across the 776 local government areas. And they have strategies and they are properly trained. But they're not funded to do that. Right in the I don't mind even political parties donating some of those monies that they use for vote buying. In Imo, it was reported Amrapas went to steal money from the polling unit for money that we were supposed to use
for vote buying.
In Imo. Amrapas went and stole the money from the party agents. Oh. I'm telling you, so it has got to that level. Why do we have to wait? The hotel I stayed, from my window, if I tell you the bags, money bags that were left there, in Kogi, we paid for a hotel. Paid way ahead of time. A day to the election, the hotel called us and told us that the governor has asked that nobody should stay in that hotel. We asked them, up till now, they have not refunded our money.
It happened in
Imo. It happened to us. We paid 3 months, 2 months ahead in Imo. We had to send our officer there to ensure that our rooms are given to us. We practically fought to get keys to our rooms. And somebody was asking us, how did you people get that? And you must have long leg. I said, we don't have long leg. We went to fight. At least we got rooms there. The only state we didn't have problem was Bayelsa. In Kogi, up to now, I talked to you, that hotel, they've not refunded our money. They told us that the governor has said that no group should be in that hotel. Okay, give us our money so that we can get another hotel. Up till now, they have not given us our money. So now, people, we are not getting money from government to do the work that we are doing. We are making effort to make sure that the process is credible so that politicians will benefit from this same process that they have not contributed to us for, and you frustrate our effort. Tomorrow, ask me, why would I want to go and observe election?
Okay, first, Nwadishi, thank you so much for your insight into the election. Election assessment is important because it ensures that elections have integrity and the will of the people is reflected, in their votes. But we've seen that there was a lot of voter apathy, especially in Imo and Bayelsa State. And we're talking about educating the voters, and Maureen has said it's a multi-sectoral event when it comes to elections. And from my own opinion, I think it should begin from the home. I remember when I was a child growing up, I started monitoring elections from 1983 because my father would say you have to sit down and watch how it is done so that you know.
But that was then.
Yeah, that was then. No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
no, listen to me. What if parents are not educated enough? How can they educate the younger generation who are coming up tomorrow to be contestants, to be voters? I hope you to be observers and all that. Why should that be happening in a country where most African countries look up to copy the kind of democracy we have in this country? Let me bring in Hamzat Lawan, his CEO Connected Development, here into the conversation. Kogi, before the election, there was a lot of talk that it was going to be violent, insecurity was going to be high, and a lot of people were going to be killed, especially in Kogi East. And then along the way, we'll find out that the violence didn't really happen, but there was a lot of compromise when it comes to results. That we saw the pre-filled result sheets, and would you say that INEC acted promptly when they got the warning from Yaga Africa that something like that was happening in Kogi? And would you rule out compromise here?
Well, first, the tension before this election, we've never seen that. It's unprecedented. From Bayelsa, from Imo, and even Kogi, the political actors tense the politics. There were hate speech, there were fake news and misinformation, there were threats, open threats, even leveraging on national TV and even social media to threaten that, this was going to be a do or die affair. Yes, we also got the report of the field result sheet in Ugorimagogo local government in 8 polling units. And I'm really excited about how INEC responded. You know, they responded promptly, first setting aside those results, and also investigated the matter. They even expanded their reach and said, we're going to investigate in 5 local governments in Kogi Central, you know, before we even continue this process. So, and this also gave some level of credibility, but most importantly, give confidence to the stakeholder that, oh, we've escalated this and now you've responded promptly. But I think that it's important that as we document and continue this entire process, because again, we'll take lessons and we're going into Edo elections and also 2027 general elections. Whoever colluded in filling result sheets must be brought to book. You know, they must investigate jointly with our apex law enforcement agents, which is the Nigerian police, because I always say the Nigerian police have everything it takes to solve any crime in Nigeria if you give them the political will and the resources to do their job. So I expect that the INEC chairman, by the way, in Kogi you had 10 electoral commissioners. So you had 8 rec and you have 2 national commissioners in the state. I expect that they would write the Commissioner of Police in the state and the IG of Police. This, we must unravel what happened. Because I also observed that the resident electoral commissioner signed the result sheet for local government coalition, not polling unit coalition, because the result sheet that was signed, or that was filled rather, in Ogorimagogo was a polling unit result sheet. So I think it's important, because we must get answers so that we can continue to build confidence. People would come out to vote if they know that the process is free, fair, and credible. For insecurity, I also think, I agree with Faith, everybody was ready for this election except the political class. Stakeholders, including
they were ready, but not in the way that you think.
Yes.
Well, or the way you want them to be prepared.
I think that this is where we need to look at what are our morals in this country, what are our values. Because if politicians are saving money, so by the way, in Bayelsa, election or vote buying started from 15,000 per vote. It went as high as 30,000
per vote.
Yes, during elections. And we got not only videos, we got pictures where monies were counted and sorted and being paid to people who have voted for a particular political party. In short, there was jubilation when the announcement was made publicly that it's no longer 15,000, it's now 30,000. Come and see jubilation.
Where were the security agents?
They were around.
And that's the question I tried to ask earlier.
So this also shows there's a collusion. There's a collusion between stakeholders that are meant to checkmate irregularities in this entire process and value chain.
Is it an issue of collusion or an issue of not being educated? That was the question I tried to ask you.
See, let me tell you.
Or maybe they thought that, you know, the fact that they came, they had to pay their transport fare. Maybe that's what the money was for. Did they?
Come on, Yeri.
No, let's be realistic here, because this happens all the time. And like Faith already mentioned, and I tried to ask her that the security operatives see things going wrong and they look away. Is it that they are not educated about the process and what should be done and not done on the field? Or is it that, you know, their role there is just to
sit down, look,
so that when you come and take pictures, you say, okay, that there's security.
Now let me give you one example. I went to a polling unit. I saw 2 security personnel from 2 different security agencies. The presiding officer announced to the people that polling has been open, drew a line and said, go back. And then people were not adhering to her instruction. And then she looked at the security and said, please come and help us now. Because ideally, security is supposed to also help them.
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
get the place organized.
And then the guy said, oh, you didn't come and meet us and tell us that polling have started. And then she's like, were you not here when I made the announcement? Am I supposed to come to you and officially tell you? You know, and then they were having the argument. Yes, I'm an observer, and most time as observers, we even become monitors.
Yeah.
No, there are 2 different things. Monitors are INEC deployed. Yeah. We had to now intervene and say, there's no time. You know, we only have a window of about 6 to 7 hours. This argument will not help anybody. And there are a lot of people queuing up, you know. And there's even another incident where I had to start speaking local language, you know, saying, go back, you know, go back, calm down. Because there's so many things that happen on the field, which is sad. My sister, there's a budget for security, there's a budget for INEC. And we know this because there's a joint committee that, you know, the INEC chairman co-chair with the National Security Advisor, and you also have the IGP of police. There's collusion here. And let's tell ourselves the truth, because we want things to be done well. People look away because they've been compromised. Because in Bayelsa, there was no reason. And if you look at some of our videos, you see security agents there. They would sit down. You see people sorting money. You see a few meters, you see security agents. And you say they don't know.
You know, during the Oshu election, I remember the social media sort of helped a lot, you know, by bringing out videos of vote buying in houses and then, you know, stamping of election results. And yes, there are the positive and negative sides of the social media.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, before the even yesterday, I was watching a clip on X and I saw shooting. I said, but this didn't happen in Kogi. So how come is there, you know, as if it's happening in Kogi? So when we look at the social media, you know, output out there, at times it is, you know, it's scary, you know, actually. And like Faith Nwadishi said, she's afraid to go to Kogi State as an election observer because she feels it is dangerous and she might not survive it. So what role can the social media play now in stabilizing the polity during elections? I'll give it to you and then we'll go out.
So social media is a platform, like every other platform. You can use it positively or negatively. Yes, we advocate that you use it positively, but I also think that and here we need to be careful. So we don't also over-police platform and, you know, hamper on the right of people and continue to shrink the civic space, because the civic space is shrinking. And social media is one platform where people only have to express themselves. But I think this is where we also have fact checkers. And I know NTA have fact checking.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that we need to be able to respond to any fake news, misinformation and disinformation, but also ensure that whoever is caught spreading fake news, misinformation or disinformation, you know, it's being prosecuted. Yes, if we do that, then people will know that, oh, there's deterrent when you do the wrong thing.
I'm particularly worried because just 9 months before this election, the general elections, these were the same issues that cropped up. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we're having elections after that and the same issues. So it means something, we're not correcting our mistakes.
Yes.
Something is not being done. Vote buying is still the order of the day. In fact, the price now is bigger, 30,000. That's huge. I mean, that's how much the salary of a civil servant.
So, no, 1,000 between 1,000 to 5,000 in Imo.
In Imo, 1,000 to 5,000. Yes. Well, that wasn't too good.
Let me quickly address the issue about the education of the security agents. Yes. They have manuals for training of police officers or security agents that will be deployed to the field. But another problem is the system of deployment of these officers. So for an off-season election, you know that you don't have the numbers to police the polling units within a state. So you bring people from their states. We have reports of, you know, somebody just reports for duty in the morning and you say, oh, you're going to Imo State for election observation. If they are not very close by or they don't have their back sack to put 1 or 2 things that they will need, especially women. You know, a woman that may be undergoing menstruation and all of that, she needs some of those basic things and she's not coming with it to the field. Some of those people may not have also had the training, but the people within the state may have had the training, but you have a lot of those people who will be deployed to all of those polling units that may not have the training, may not have had the training. So that calls for more training. And that's one thing we need to advise is, beyond training those people within a state where the election is going to happen, long before that time, you should train all police officers so that if you draft any police officer to a particular state,
I do not think that the training is sufficient or has been done appropriately. Yes, exactly. You know why? Because we had the general elections where almost every police officer was involved.
Yes.
So I mean, by now the process. Okay, if me as an electorate, for example, I'm supposed to know how the process runs during election day if I've been voting. So if you're a police officer, you will be drafted one time or another for election.
Police, all the military, even military. It was even worse. You know, we got to a checkpoint where we're just driving through, got to a checkpoint. The first military officer that saw say, we are observer, say, what if we observer? Go and meet that man. I'm telling you, you can imagine. And it was happening in the city.
Is the call for the police
The security agents.
State policing is a call for the State Police Act at this moment now.
I mean,
especially
I am in
elections
support
like
of state policing, but the only problem I have is hijacking of that, the state capture of it, you know, and what citizens will think about it. Already, some vigilantes are working, some states have passed laws for vigilantes and all, but you have seen also the abuse of it. So the important thing is, how do you check that impunity? Somebody does something wrong because he is close to somebody A, B, C. You let the person go. People are buying vote on the field. You even see police. Let me not say police. You even see security agents congregating together to collect their share from party agents.
When
we have a video. You understand? So maybe you have 5, 6 police officers in a particular polling unit. Others will just go back, and as soon as the person comes, you see the person, they will give them, this is your own share.
And
why would they look away?
All of the elections. And
then that's why I'll bring more into the conversation quickly, because you talked about the fact that you saw a lot of security operatives on the field on during the election, Maureen. But we also have report that an INEC official was abducted in that state.
He was released.
He was released, yes, but there was an abduction, and he was with materials at the time he was abducted. When he was released, were those materials, also released? So, Maureen, please tell us, because if we do not have the security agents doing the right thing on the field, and then at the end of the day, those who commit crimes or who are even arrested are released without, the right thing being done, without them being, properly the right thing being done, just so that, in the next election, nobody does the same thing. What really do you think is the way forward? Maureen, I just want you to tell me, as an election observer, what's the way out of this particular challenge with the security agents?
To be asking right now is the fact that the supervising presiding officer that was abducted in Amasuma, that was going to a reward that she should be supervising in Sagbama, but she has to pass through Southern Niger to get to that place. So it's a difficult place to get to. Was she going alone? Were there no security deployed to go with her? Because the abductors went with her and took away the beaver. So will Beaver's machine be going to place that election is supposed to be executed where security are not supposed to be with her? That's one of the first questions. And when I say election is a multi-stakeholder event, it is not just only INEC. On election day, people get to register to work for INEC, not because of the money INEC is going to be paying them after the election. So you see, we observed where presiding officers, INEC officials, ad hoc staffs on election day are bargaining with party agents on what they will be paid before they will commence election. So if every other stakeholders that are supposed to be part of this process don't do their very bits, citizens have their bits to do, security have their bits to do, election observers, superb, we're doing our best. Security agency, very, very vital. A lady was taken away and security personnel were looking. They turned their face away, and she was adopted. These are the issues, and I just feel it's about morals. If we face the process with the fact that I am going into this process because it's a process where we select our leaders at every strata, national election, general election, state assembly election. People go into this activity with the fact that this is not, they're not going for the money INEC is paying them. I beg.
Because let's look at the lessons learned, and going forward we have an election just around the corner in 2024. What are the lessons learned, and what do you think should be done, to ensure that we have it smooth and easy as it goes?
I think first we need to audit the process. Let's audit as stakeholders. Let's sit down, civil society situation room, bring security, bring INEC, bring National Orientation Agency, and let's even look at, Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa. What are those gaps? Let's bring the National Assembly. Because see, the National Assembly is critical to whatever electoral reform we're going to do. Because they would have to pass it. And then it will go to the State Assembly and then comes back and then sent to the President. And this would take rigorous advocacy and engagement. So I think we need to have that honest conversation with an open mind. You know, because every stakeholder will come with her own perspective. And we need to be able to accept it, digest it, understand it, and then work with it. Also is the role of substance abuse. Because a lot of time, what triggers violence is substance abuse. Whoever you're sending to go and cause mayhem does not go with their right senses. So I think NTA is one key strategic partner here. Because if you engage them actively and make them critical in election cycle, because when you, I'm sure Faith have engaged a thug before on the field. You would see they are there, and then you wonder, how is a thug around a polling unit and there's still security? They're mostly not in their right senses. They're high on something, which is drug. So again, how do we curtail substance abuse during election so that we can have a saner process?
All right, many thanks. Faith, I'd like you to just respond. What's the way forward? Like I already mentioned, these are the issues we've been having. I mean, it's the same thing, the same issues. How do we solve this problem going forward and have our electoral process really free, fair, and credible?
I think that the first thing to do is for the call out the National Assembly to look at the Electoral Offences Commission, because we really need that like yesterday. People are committing electoral offences and they're not being prosecuted. Even those that are being prosecuted is taking a lot of time. But if you have an Electoral Offences Commission that takes care of those electoral issues, we will begin to see the big names being prosecuted, and that can be some kind of deterrence to people who want to perpetuate those kind of crimes on the field. And we need to do massive voter education, reorientation of the people to understand the role that they play, that the PVC is not about the 1,000 naira, or like when you go to some places where they say vote and make a pot of soup, that the pot of soup may not even be able to cure the disease that they have to pay money for in the hospital. So we need that reorientation to do that. Number one for me is to have that Electoral Offences Commission put in place. Number two is to do massive voter education, and perhaps there's something I'm learning recently about behavioral insight and behavioral economics. Look at how we can use behavioral insight strategies to begin to turn around voter education and people's perception about the election.
Okay, Faith, let's now return to Maureen in Bayelsa. How do you begin to build trust, in the electorate to come out, vote, so that we can sort of in any way reduce the voter apathy, and which way forward for the electoral process in Nigeria? In 1 minute, please.
So I think every stakeholder should just own up to their own responsibility, their own part of the process. So if INEC has said this is what they will do on election day, they should own up and keep up to that expectation. Security should do their part, and every other stakeholders involved. Yes, NOA has a lot to do in terms of education, because if people are educated and they know why they are selecting their leaders, I know a lot of this mayhems we're seeing on election day will reduce drastically. So every stakeholder that is involved in the process should own up to their own responsibility and do their bits in terms of our elections. I think that way we're going to reduce all the issues we're having.
Tari Maureen Amananaga, an election observer, thank you for joining us all the way from Yenagoa. And please stay safe even as we await the results, final results being released right there. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria. Also, many thanks to Hamzat Lawal, CEO, Connected Development. Thank you for your insight this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It was great to have you. And of course, Faith Nwandishi, I must say that you look really beautiful. You don't look like you went through stress this weekend.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us again
so much.
for Good Morning Nigeria. All right, so we go to our next conversation, but before we let you in on what that's about, let's take this break.